Well, hello and welcome. The Russian authorities say the location where a military plane with 92 people on board crashed into the Black Sea has been pinpointed. More than 100 divers are inspecting the seabed, an operation that is going through the night. So far, 11 bodies have been recovered. Well, vigils have been held like this one at the Osten Kino TV station to remember the 9 journalists who were killed in the crash. But most of the passengers were members of the Russian Army celebrated band, formerly known as the Red Army Choir. The Transport Minister says investigators aren't ruling out any possible reasons for the crash, and that does include terrorism. Steve Rosenberg has this report from Moscow.
This is one of the final images of the Tupolev 154 jet. It was taken by a journalist before he boarded the plane. The flight would end in tragedy. The aircraft crashed into the Black Sea. The Russians scrambled helicopters and ships, but the search became a recovery operation. There were no survivors. The plane had taken off from a military airfield near Moscow. It flew south, stopping in Sochi to refuel. The final destination was Syria and Russia's airbase near Latakia. But minutes after leaving Sochi, it crashed. President Putin offered his condolences to the families of the victims and promised them his full support. On board were more than 60 members of the Russian Army's famous song and dance ensemble, once known as the Red Army Choir. They'd been due to give a concert at the Russian airbase in Syria.
We all loved this ensemble. We valued them. They are our brothers, our friends, our colleagues. May they rest in peace.
Also killed in the crash, the prominent humanitarian activist and medic Yelizaveta Glinka, known to millions of Russians as Dr. Lisa. Most civilian airlines have stopped using the Tupolev 154, once the workhorse of the Russian aviation industry. In 2010, a Tupolev 154 carrying the Polish president crashed in Russia while trying to land. The following year, a similar plane caught fire in Siberia before takeoff. Throughout the day, Muscovites brought flowers to the headquarters of the Russian Army Choir. This disaster has left Russia stunned and silent. The Kremlin has promised a thorough investigation into this tragedy. It's also declared Monday a day of national mourning. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Moscow.
Well, for more on this, I've been speaking to Olga Ivshina. She's from the BBC's Russian service. She said the focus is now on finding the aircraft's recorders.
They continue operation. They're trying to find black boxes because this is the most important, and they hope that this will show some light on the probable reasons of the crash, because up to now, we don't really know what happened. The recording of conversation between the airplane and the base was published, but it sounds like a routine check. The voices are calm, nothing else happens. There is no sign of any alarm or warning, which means probably it happened quite abruptly.
But the investigators have not ruled out every possibility or any possibility here. Yes,
Russian Transport Minister said that they're looking into all versions, and basically there are 3 versions, which is quite usual, technical failure, mistake of a pilot, and something else, meaning probably possibility of terror attack. Well, they didn't specify which one is a priority one, so yes, they're looking into all possible versions.
And if we look to those on board who sadly perished in this crash, there were journalists who were covering the Red Army Choir travelling to Syria to perform.
Yes, so the majority of people on board were members of the Red Army Choir, who are a member of military ensemble named after Alexandrov. And actually, this was quite a significant bit of this ensemble, so they lost 1/3 of their members at the moment, and most of the members of the choir. They were well known, they were really respected and really loved in Russia and respected all over the world for their professionalism. They were performing a lot both in Russia, in Russian military bases in the country and abroad, boosting military spirit. They were also giving some concerts in some other countries. Their image became slightly more controversial since 2014, because being a member of Russian army, they praised actions of Russian soldiers during the annexation of Crimea, and then some politicians in Eastern Europe said that they must be boycotted, but it never happened. They kept performing. But once again, you know, they were well known and recognized for their professionalism as artists.
And we've seen some vigils already started in Russia. Can we expect more of those in the next few days?
Well, President Putin announced Monday as the day of national mourning, and Russian state TV has changed its programs, so will be no funny programs, nothing like this. And it seems that many people in Russia are shocked. Many Muscovites are coming to the base of Red Army Choir, bringing candles and flowers. Also, many people come to NGO, which was run by a famous Russian doctor, Yelizaveta Glinka. She was also on board of that plane. She was bringing some humanitarian aid for some Syrian hospitals, and she was well, really respected and loved by many Russians because she was helping people in need, homeless people, children. She was also involved in some minor controversies, but you know, her humanitarian effort was widely recognized. And it seems that people weren't expecting this to come. It's a huge shock coming just before days of celebration, just before the New Year, which is a big deal in Russia.
That was Olga Ivshina from the BBC's Russian service.